What is the craziest encounter of rich kid syndrome that you have experienced? Girl I went to high school with got a Mercedes for her 16th birthday. Bitched and moaned about the fact that she didn't get a Lexus because her name was Lexi and she thought it would be so cool for Lexi to drive a Lexus with a custom license plate saying Lexi. Her parents did cave and buy her a Lexus for her 17th birthday. My college roommate threw a massive tantrum, like on the floor screaming and crying, because her parents got her a used big grass truck for graduation. It was a 2013 truck with less than 10k miles that was fully upgraded / loaded with every possible add-on. We graduated in 2014. The car was maybe a year old. She already had a 2009 Range Rover. Humble rich kid. I was a club at my college town and my roommate's new friend who drove a Raptor was at the bar. I started shooting ship and we were getting along, so I offered to buy a Y-bomb vodka Red Bull shot. Being as wealthy as he is, he said you don't have to do that man, save your money. Round will be on me. I explained to him it didn't bother, I was having a good time, and insisted I buy the shot. Immediately after that, he pulls out a black Amex and purchases the nicest VIP booth in the club around 3k. Then ask what drink packages they have and ask if he could buy 2 bottles on top of maximum package. Looks at me and goes crit for tat. Safe to say I don't recall much after that. There's a lot of rich kids in my particular business program in university. I met this one girl a few months ago at a social. We were chatting a bit about our program and she proudly told me about how she threatens to sue the school whenever things don't go her way. She also said something to the effect of, they have to take the threat seriously because they know I actually have the means to follow through, haha. First day as a librarian in a private school. Help the 7-year-old with the printer. He offers to tip me. One of my coworker, kind of not really friends, years ago made a comment that stuck with me as the most out of touch thing I have ever heard anyone say in person. I mean, who trusts Portuguese cleaning people? There are layers of entitlement and snoot in there. But the thing is that he was complaining about legitimate and relatable my parents hate me and blame me for everything things. His parents really did blame him for whatever the cleaning team broke. I'm still not sure how to feel about it. He had legitimate hardships that I can understand, expressed from a frame of reference that I cannot. I was in a theology class where we were talking about compromises. Teacher, what are some compromises your parents have made? Very rich girl. My mom wanted to go to Hawaii and my dad wanted to go to Mexico, so we went to the Bahamas instead. Going to private school makes life full of these stories. Like earlier this week, when I asked why this girl who I sit by was gone. Her friend then told me she's skipping this week because she wanted to go to the Bruno Mars and Pitbull concert in Hawaii. Or another one, last year this girl got too stressed out with school, so she went to Lithuania with her dad for a month. I have no idea how she made up all her schoolwork. When I was in college, a friend that was heavy in the frat life told me about a freshman that got kicked out for having a servant flown to town to do the hazing chores he was supposed to do. A 14-year-old in full volume cursing meltdown. Where the duck is he? Because the pilot of the private helicopter that had brought him there had gone off to get a cup of coffee. The kid was done skiing for the day and found it totally unacceptable that he had to wait 10 minutes before he got flown home. A Saudi guy in the UK got in a crash with light damage to one side of brand new Mercedes. He called for one of his assistants to come get him, even though the car was fully drivable. My friend rolled up on call with his tow truck and asked the guy where he wanted the Merc towed. The guy gave him the keys and said, keep it, I don't want it. I knew a chick in high school who threw a tantrum that the SUV her parents new BTW wasn't the right color. I used to have a friend who would constantly say I love when my dad gives me money, and if I ask for a certain amount of money my parents always give me $50 extra. This girl then bought her apartment boasting about it on Facebook and how proud she was of herself, how at 23 she was able to afford a home at such a young age all on her own. Still makes me want to faceplant into a pile of jagged rocks. I work in a jail. I always love when someone gets arrested and comes in screaming, do you know who my dad/mom/grandpa/uncle is? He'll buy your entire jail. It's even better when their dad/mom/grandpa/uncle refuses to come bond them out. This happened a couple of weeks ago at the Infiniti dealership. I was in the waiting room with a very well dressed lady for our loaner cars. She left the waiting room to look at her loaner and came back crying. She said she drives a fully loaded QX80 and they gave her a QX60 with nothing in it. I said sorry that happened and asked how long she was going to have the loaner for. She said a couple of hours. I wanted to tell her to suck it up, but instead I sat there quiet thinking how life must be easy for her to cry over a loaner car. I had 2 friends in college who were from UAE. They were brothers and their parents were sending them to school in the US. They were actually pretty cool and down to earth, if not a good bit weird. They knew I didn't have a ton of money and couldn't afford to do the cool stuff they did, so they covered me all the time. Crazy stuff, like renting a private plane to go to a concert, black cars with drivers, expensive dinners and exclusive clubs. On the weird side, they slaughtered a goat in the bathtub to make a traditional Arabian dinner, and they wore far too much draka. Funny short story. My ex-wife used to drive a 1998 Honda Accord. She treated it like shit, and so one day I got into it to drive somewhere and I noticed that it was falling apart. I had 2 options, junkyard or sell it, and so I put it on Craigslist for $250. I thought it could go to a low-income family that had someone with some know-how who could semi-restore it. But when I meet the buyer, he was not who I expected. He pulled up in a brand new Escalade and told me that his son was spoiled. His son had crashed a BMW, Mercedes, and an Audi, and so he was done buying him nice cars. Turns out, this guy purchased my car as a way of torturing his son. Edit, hot damn. I even got Reddit silver as a result of selling that car. Thank you for the coin, stranger. Second edit. Of course this edit is to give a shout out to whoever gave me gold. Thank you. 3.5 years on Reddit and 47k in karma later, and I got my first gold. Cheers. Sitting in a group discussion in college and having one kid whine that his parents were so disadvantaged that they only brought home $500k a year 20 years ago. I sat there and kept quiet because my family only had $30k a year. I was only there because of scholarships and financial aid. The worst thing is all of the sympathy this kid got from the other people in the class. The school was so proud of their racial diversity, but 95% of the students came from families in the top 1% of income. I was that poor kid who ended up getting a scholarship to a ridiculous private school. The one thing that stood out massively for me was probably how much people cared about what everyone else's parents did. Like your parents' achievements counted for yourself. My daddy just brought a new plane. Yes, a literal statement. So what does your dad do? When I replied duck all, they laughed and thought I was being cool about it. Had a kid that lived across the hall from me my freshman year of college from Honduras. During one of the icebreakers after freshman move-in, he leaned to me to ask if I knew when the maids came to make his bed/clean. I guess his family was very well off in his home country and the entire semester was an eye-opener for him in actually taking care of himself. GF family is wealthy. She's working her way to it. But she was waiting to get a chance for a promotion, and the words "I cannot believe anyone would make somebody work for almost a year to get a promotion" came out of her mouth. And I laughed. Look up Corona Del Mar High School cheating scandal. Happened at my school. Parents paid around $50k a piece to have a tutor bug the school computers and change students' grades. They all lawyered up big time when it came out, and all the kids got off free and all made it into their top 3 schools. Edit. I would also like to add that this made the news and all the parents whined that their children were innocent and just had a bad tutor. Had a girl I went to school with total 4 brand new cars, think Range Rover, Escalade, etc. I was also in a class with this girl when the teacher handed out papers that needed to be signed by a parent, and she signed it herself and tried to turn it in the same period as it was handed out, and freaked out when the teacher wouldn't accept it. Kids who would talk shit and pick fights and then turn around and say "if you touch me my dad will sue." There are a lot more. When I worked at a gas station in my early 20s, it was the hangout spot for spoiled teens to show off their new cars, try to steal beer, but generally just hang out in a gas station parking lot. WTF. Anyway, one Douchinazil turned 16 and his parents bought him a brand new sports car. Don't ask me what it was. It just looked really expensive. By the next weekend, he totaled that car, trying to show off and do donuts in the intersection the gas station was on and just slammed right into a pole. He was fine. Car demolished. Where is karma when you need her? Within 2 weeks, the Sashat already had another brand new car. He would brag about how his parents were so stupid and he is already looking to upgrade when the next model came out. No regard for the money his parents shelled out. No regard for the possible lives he put in jeopardy with his reckless driving. I wanted to throttle him. Ex-girlfriend's friend said to me, "Can you believe there are people who have never been on a private jet? UHH. Yeah, I'm one of them." Dad bought his college-age daughter a house in a very nice neighborhood so that she and her friends could live rent-free while they attended university. He remodeled the entire house. In all, he probably spent close to $2 million. 2 weeks after moving in, they left a candle burning while they went to the store to get snacks for a football game. Came home and the house was on fire. A month later, it was good and new for them to move back in. Kids trying to straight up bribe bouncers and even police officers. This is less surprising when you realize they were international students from rich families where bribes are common/expected. Thankfully, they'd learn really quick to not do that. I really want a classic Jaguar type convertible, but annoyingly you can only get second-hand ones. A girl in my school was surprised by her parents in the school's parking lot with a new BMW. A freaking BMW. Everyone who is out is basically watching this go down, and she starts crying. At first we are all thinking it's because she's so happy, but then she runs back into the school. Apparently they were supposed to show up earlier, I'm assuming when there would be more students to witness the surprise. I felt bad for the dad because he looked totally embarrassed and sad about it. You know, in his head he's like, I created this monster. Girl at work told me she hated her dad. I asked why. She said he keeps asking for money since she used his credit card for a Euro trip and left him an 80 grand bill from last year. My college roommate's mom gave him tucking $1,400 for the weekend just randomly. He blew through the whole thing by Saturday, asked his mom for more money, and was screaming at her because she promised $1,400 for the weekend, and he spent most of what she gave him on Friday, which isn't a part of the weekend. I went to college with a guy who totaled 5 Mustangs in a year. I don't think he was sober enough to remember any of them. One time a college dorm mate next door was stressing his dad hadn't yet given him money for the month, and $1,000 wasn't going to last him for the week. Meanwhile I'm having to donate plasma to afford my next meal. Life just be like that. I watched rich kids of Instagram on YouTube, and I'm still recovering. Not exactly rich kid syndrome, but there was this family that had 2 children who attended the elementary school that was connected to my middle school. Every day the 2 parents would leave the house and drive separately to pick up their 2 kids before returning home. I should mention at this point that they each drove a Lamborghini, one black and one orange, back to back in the pickup line to get their kids from elementary school. At first I thought they were just being showy, but then I realized that they were two-seaters, so this was really the only way to do it. My friend's mom owns a very big oil company and they make close to $3 million a year, and he says he's middle class. Edit. They choose to take a salary of $3 million each year. The company makes at least 10x as much, so stop commenting about how it makes no sense. My rich cousin contends that the reason people are poor is because they're fat and lazy. If they took better care of their appearance, they too could be rich in a society based on first impressions and looking the part. Not scathing like most of the ones on here. I grew up attending a private school in a developing country, so a lot of my classmates were in the 1% of the country. Whenever we'd be swimming in the school pool, one friend of ours in particular would always remark that swimming is more fun if the pool has a current or waves. To which I had no idea what he was talking about and generally thought he was just being imaginative. One day he invited me over to his house for swimming, and he had a 50-foot indoor pool that generated a current/waves. He wasn't lying. They are a lot more fun. Teacher here. 2 spring to mind. 1. My first teaching job was at a private middle school in one of the wealthiest enclaves in the United States. I taught a kid who told me he didn't finish his homework because his helicopter had stalled over the weekend, so he couldn't leave his family's island. He was telling the truth. Same kid was also a huge pain in the grass who wanted to misbehave with the cool kids, and then would lie through his teeth while crying when held accountable. His parents knew he was a jerk and cared enough to bring me a case of wine from their vineyard as a gift every parent-teacher conference or before the holidays. But they didn't care enough to discipline their kid. 2. I now teach at a private school in Europe, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked by how many parents are happy to pay $35k per year to dump their kids into boarding so they can do fuck all as students and repeat grades 1/2/3 times because they don't make any effort whatsoever. I knew someone who goes out of the country just to have a haircut. My personal favorite was in college. Kid down the hall from me bought a brand new Fender Stratocaster and played with it for a day and got bored and sold it to me case and all for $20. I still have it and play it 15 years later. It's a great guitar. A girl had me go in and buy her 6 cartons of cigarettes cause she didn't want to get out of the car cause she didn't want her nails broken. Said I could buy whatever I wanted. Easily what I made a week after taxes gone in seconds. Edit. Switched packs to cartons. There was this rich kid in our class who was literally disgusted by us buying used stuff, like computer parts, on eBay. Once during conversation I said I bought on eBay memory module for my PC and said to me that I should have a little dignity and if I buy used stuff I should keep it to myself.